Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you to this town meeting preview, coming to you for the special and annual town meetings for spring 2023. Meetings are scheduled on Saturday, April 1st at 8 a.m. at Plymouth North High School in the Center for Performing Arts. It will be a hybrid. Town meeting members will be in person. They can also participate remotely. I'm Steve Trifletti, Plymouth Town Moderator, and tonight's preview is an opportunity to get an overview of the motions to come before town meeting. I'd like to introduce our panel. Joining me on my right, Assistant Town Moderator Nicole Manfredi, and to my left, Kevin Canty. He is the Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee. We are also joined by Brad, who is the Assistant Town Manager, and also we're joined by Kelly Kellerith, and she is the Town Clerk, and by Lynn Barrett, she's the Director of Finance. I believe in our panel also by Zoom, we have the Superintendent of Plymouth Public Schools, Christopher Campbell, who is also available this evening. And I'm going to begin by asking Nicole Manfredi her opening remarks. Nicole.
Thanks, Steve. Just a few things. As we inch closer to the first hybrid town meeting, I want to remind town meeting members that if they intend on participating remotely, they must notify myself and the town clerk. Any members who have been elected since the last town meeting who plan on remote participation must contact me by, want me to start over? Sorry, just a few things. I had it on. As we inch closer to the first hybrid town meeting, I want to remind town meeting members that if they intend on participating remotely, they must notify myself and the town clerk. Any members who have been elected since the last town meeting who plan on remote participation must contact me by Monday, March 27th for training. There will be no tech support for the April meeting and no call-in support number. And lastly, any new motions must be sent to Jeanette White no later than 2 p.m. on Thursday, March 30th.
Thank you, and that's Nicole Manfredi. She's the Assistant Town Moderator at the day of town meeting. We'll also be joined by the second assistant, Karen Bukes, and together the three of us will help to facilitate the parliamentary procedure at town meeting. And at this time, part of this preview is to go right into the motions. I have a draft motions book. It's available through the Office of the Advisory and Finance Committee. And I'm going to tell you that one of the things we're going to do very early on for this particular town meeting is after we have the opening ceremonies, the salute to the flag, the national anthem, and the clergy invocation. The clerk will then read the roll in memoriam, and followed by some words. I will introduce the assistant moderators and town council, and then we're going to go to a vote. And we're going to do that early because this is the first hybrid wherein we're going to try to merge the handsets for those participating in person with the V-Voter platform for those participating remotely. And so people are going to be voting in two different ways, and we're going to try to make sure that it goes smoothly. So the first motion, Mr. Canty moves the adjourned session of this annual town meeting be held on Monday, April 3, 2023 at 6 p.m. As with all the procedural motions, it is debatable, except for a motion to close debate, which is not debatable. And it's a majority vote, and we will take that vote, and then we will go into the presentations from the legislative delegation. This shall be Senator Susan Moran. We will hear then from the Select Board, from the School Committee, and from the Planning Board. And that'll be followed by the Finance Committee and the Assistant Moderator, and then I will provide my opening remarks. And then we'll get into the motions. So at town meeting, we begin with the special town meeting warrant. And so Article 1 is withdrawn. Article 2 is a motion for the fiscal 23 budget amendments. And Mr. Canty moves the town vote to transfer $190,000 from free cash to the town manager. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, 0 in opposition, and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 2. Approval of this article will increase the fiscal year 23 operating budget as detailed in the provided materials.
It's a majority vote and a roll call. If it is not unanimous, we have people available to be answering questions at town meeting. And throughout this evening, we will highlight who some of those people would be for the various articles. I also want to let town meeting members know that we will be going through the warrant chronologically. And by that I mean that we'll start with Article 1 and go to Article 12. However, it is possible for any town meeting member to move to change the order of the articles, and that is a 2/3 vote. But a motion to change the order can result in motions being taken in a way other than you see them on the warrant. It is also possible to move to reconsider. And a motion to reconsider can be made by someone who voted on the prevailing side of a particular motion. And the motion to reconsider, if successful, can result in an article coming up once again before town meeting. So with respect to this, we're going to continue with Article 3, unpaid bills of a prior year. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to transfer the sum of $31,253.94 from free cash to pay certain unpaid bills of a prior year as follows. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 3. Approval of this article will authorize the Finance Department to process the outstanding invoices for KP Law on behalf of the Town Manager Department as detailed in the table below. The funding for these invoices will come from free cash.
And if there are any questions this evening, we certainly can take them up at this time. And we're going to move on. Article 3, unpaid bills of a prior year. We've done, and by the way, that's a 9/10 roll call vote. Article 4, we're going to take the portions of the article first. A1, A2, A3, motions for capital improvements. Mr. Canty moves the town appropriate the sum of $268,260. Mr. Canty.
So although you will hear Article 4 in two parts, the Advisory and Finance Committee heard it in one part, and my comments will be in relation to both sets of motions. So with that in mind, in a unanimous vote of 11 in favor with none in opposition and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 4. Approval of this article will authorize the general fund capital requests detailed in the materials to be funded partially from free cash and from other available funds and grants for the remainder.
Thank you. And at town meeting, we're going to continue in Article 4, and we're going to treat B1 separately. We had a request from a town meeting member on a motion to divide, but because of borrowing and the 2/3 quantum of vote, we have to do it separately anyway. So that's what we're going to do. And this is on the Bartlett Bridge construction. Mr. Canty moves the town appropriates the sum of $3,250,000 to pay costs of the Bartlett Road Bridge reconstruction. Mr. Canty.
In the same unanimous vote of 11 to 0 with no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this portion of Article 4 as well.
And this is, as I indicated, a 2/3 vote. And at this time, for the Bartlett Road construction, we will have a presentation beginning with Sheila Scarzy, who is the acting director for the Department of Public Works. And we also have available James Downey. He is the acting town engineer. And we will have also a video presentation. Hearing no questions, and the Assistant Town Moderator is monitoring the chat for those town meeting members that may have a question for the panel. You can ask it through the chat, and we'll continue. Article 5 in the special town meeting is Facility Capital Maintenance Stabilization Fund. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to authorize the Select Board to appropriate $630,725. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 1 abstention, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 5. Approval of this article will authorize the town to transfer $630,725 from free cash to the Facility Capital Maintenance Stabilization Fund for future use as it relates to capital maintenance of town-owned buildings. The current balance in the fund is $5,060,111.28. As with all stabilization funds, a 2/3 vote of town meeting will be required for any future withdrawals from this stabilization fund.
Thank you. And again, this will be listed on my copy here. It's a majority with a roll call vote. And hearing no questions, Article 7 is withdrawn. Article 8 is a motion to amend the bylaws of Chapter 71, Section 10, accepting gifts of land and easements. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to authorize Select Board to accept gifts of land and easements. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 10 in favor, 1 in opposition, and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 8. Approval of this article will authorize the Select Board to accept gifts of land and easements or any other interest in land for any and all purposes without a town meeting vote, provided that no funds need to be appropriated in order to accept the specified gift of land.
Thank you. And we have with this, this particular motion is going to be a majority vote and a roll call, but we have a motion to amend, which is also a majority and a roll call. And on the motion to amend, Al DiNardo, Precinct 17, moves to amend the language to read gifts of land of 1/2 acre or less. So that would be in the first sentence, accept gifts of land of 1/2 acre or less. Mr. DiNardo is not here, but certainly he's available as a town meeting member to be able to answer questions. And I believe we will be hearing from the town manager, who will be speaking to the main motion and not in support of the motion to amend. We will handle the motion to amend, and then we would handle the vote on the main motion following the motion to amend, which we have. We'll continue on with the special town meeting warrant, and the next article that we have is Article 9, and it's entitled Airport Capital Supplemental Appropriation. Mr. Canty moves that the town appropriates an additional sum of $10,150 to supplement the $8,600 appropriation on Article 9A30 to pay additional costs of the runway environment assessment. And then it goes on for the payment of all costs incidental related thereto for a total appropriation of $18,750, and that the town appropriate an additional sum of $75,000 to supplement the $100,000 appropriation under Article 9 of April of 2022, and also a total appropriation of $175,000 for airport hangar insulation replacement, and to meet this appropriation, $85,150 transferred from the airport retained earnings. Mr. Canty.
In 2 separate unanimous votes, the advice of first 11 in favor with none in opposition and no abstentions, and the second being 12 in favor with none in opposition and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9. Approval of this article will authorize the additional appropriations to the vote taken in Article 9 of the 2022 Spring Annual Town Meeting as detailed in the materials. The funding for this supplemental appropriation will be airport retained earnings and other available funds and grants.
Thank you. And available to support us with this, we have for this article Matthew Cardillo. He is the airport manager. He'll be available. It's a majority in a roll call vote. And continuing on, we have another Article 10, Municipal Airport Sewage Treatment Plant Upgrade. It's a supplemental appropriation, and Mr. Kenny moves town appropriates an additional sum of $1,931,270 to supplement the $2,250,000 appropriation under Article 4B1, passed in April of 2022. And there's additional language, Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 in favor, none in opposition, and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 10. Approval of this article will authorize a supplemental appropriation of $1,931,270 to the vote taken on Article 4B1 of the 2022 Spring Special Town Meeting. The funds for this supplemental appropriation will be airport retained earnings and other available funds and grants.
Thank you. At this time, continuing on, we have, again, Matthew Cardillo available as the airport manager to answer questions. And moving on, Article 11, amend the special legislation meals tax. And Mr. Canty moves that the town vote to authorize Select Board petition the General Court to amend Sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 363 of the Acts of 2014. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 11. Approval of this article will petition the Massachusetts General Court to amend the existing special legislation known as the 1820 Courthouse Fund to rename it the Facilities Improvement Fund, eliminate the sunset clause that deposits the revenue received through the local meals tax into the fund, and expand the permissible uses for monies in the fund to include the 1820 Courthouse and its associated properties and any other education, public safety, or public works facility. Until the town hall debt is paid off, the town intends to meet its annual obligations on the existing town hall debt before appropriating any additional monies towards any of these other permissible uses.
So this is legislation, and historically, we have not been amending the text to legislation on town meeting floor. And although we'll have town council, I'm again requesting that if anyone has any possible proposed motions on this or any other article, please get it to me in advance. My email address is fst@plymouthlaw.com. You can also call me at 508-746-1464, and we'll help to assist you in fashioning a motion that's consistent with either a town meeting time, which is our parliamentary handbook, or with past practice and past precedent. Again, as Nicole Manfredi mentioned, the timeline we've set for motions to be printed in the motions book would be next Thursday, March 30, at 2 p.m. So please get your motions in advance. And for this article, we have Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions. Also, John Mahoney, member of the Select Board, will be speaking on behalf of the Select Board. It's a majority vote, roll call if it's not unanimous. And then on the day of town meeting, we would be concluding the special with the Article 12 motion that was petitioned by Precinct 3, a traffic study. Mr. Canty moves the town appropriate $165,878 to pay costs of a traffic flow and parking study. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 10 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 12. Approval of this article will authorize a traffic flow and parking study coordinated with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation and/or the Massachusetts Highway Department, if necessary, as well as all applicable local boards, agencies, and committees for the purpose of determining the need for potential improvements to traffic flow, speed limits, crosswalks, sidewalks, parking, and any other measures deemed appropriate to increase safe travel for pedestrians and motor vehicles in the area depicted on the map submitted and included in the materials.
It's a majority vote. Roll call if it's not unanimous. Dale Weber from Precinct 3 will present on this article. He's available. And at this time, if there are no further motions or matters to come before the special town meeting, I have a motion to dissolve, and it is debatable. And if it passes, that concludes any further action on this special town meeting. And we can't go back to it later after we take up the annual. So it's important for town meeting members to be aware of that. In addition, we do have legislation that was passed to allow the hybrid, and if there are people who want to participate remotely, we've asked that they contact the town clerk. I've also received some requests from residents, and I think there's some confusion. In both cases, people want to participate remotely, and when I had further inquiry, they understood that they can come in person to a town meeting that's open to anyone to come in person, Plymouth North High School, and also you can watch on PACTV. PACTV will be cable casting this live on the day of town meeting, and so both of those people will be participating in that manner. At this time, assuming we've dissolved, we're going to go to the annual town meeting, and it was recessed originally after the opening ceremonies, and now we're going to reopen if there's no objection, and Ms. Canty moves that. And the first article in the annual town meeting is Article 1, which is withdrawn. Article 2 would be the reports of the boards, the officers, and the committees. Ms. Canty moves that the town vote to receive the reports of several boards, officers, and committees of the town. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 2. Approval of this article will allow boards and committees to place their reports on file with the town clerk. Most boards and committee reports can be found in the annual town report.
Thank you. And certainly there are people to answer questions for the annual report for the town. The town clerk is available to answer. We would continue after that vote with a motion for the revolving fund spending limits. Ms. Canty moves the town vote to establish the maximum amount that may be spent from each fund during fiscal year 2024, beginning July 1st, 2023. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 3. Approval of this article will set the fiscal year 2024 spending caps for each of the revolving funds listed herein pursuant to Massachusetts general laws.
Thank you. Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, available to answer questions. Article 4 is for continuation of committees. Ms. Canty moves that town vote pursuant to Chapter 173 of the General Bylaws to authorize the following committees. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 4. Approval of this article will authorize the 1749 Courthouse Committee, Plymouth Energy Committee, and the North Plymouth Steering Committee to continue to operate for the next 3 years, with a further review in 3 years at the 2026 Annual Town Meeting.
We will be voting electronically throughout the annual and special town meeting, and those remotely will be using the V-Voter platform from OTI. Continuing on, Article 5 is withdrawn. Article 6 is the motion for salaries of elected officials. And Mr. Canty moves the town vote pursuant to the General Laws 41, Section 108, to authorize annual stipends and salaries of elected officials. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 6. Approval of this article will set the annual stipends for the Select Board and Town Moderator. There are no changes to the stipend amounts this year. The Chair of the Select Board will receive a stipend of $4,500. The 4 remaining Select Board members will receive $4,000 each, and the Town Moderator will receive $2,000. The funding for these stipends are included in Article 7A, the General Fund Budget.
Thank you. And again, a majority roll call, and we would now be coming to Article 7. Article 7 would be the article related to the budget. Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, is available to be answering questions, and as we've done in recent years, we're going to be going through a number of subcommittee reports and voting on each one. Mr. Canty, your remarks under Article 7, and I'll begin with a vote to raise and appropriate $15,770,749 from Subcommittee Report A. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, 0 in opposition, and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report A.
And with your town meeting motions, you'll be receiving information regarding the budget, and you'll be able to go along with the motions and look at this printout that has been made available to you. So, for example, for Subcommittee Report A, tonight it's shown as the Town of Plymouth operating budget, and this would be page 1 of 8 pages showing the fiscal 2024 operating budget. So town meeting members can go along with that and follow as we go through each motion. Now, under Article 7A motion, Subcommittee Report A, we're going to have a motion to amend. And Al DiNardo, Precinct 17, moves the town vote to increase Item 11, elections and town meeting, all other expenses, by $75,000. Mr. DiNardo is not here. I'm going to put the town clerk on the spot. Kelly McElrath, do you know the reason why Mr. DiNardo is presenting this motion to amend?
I believe because the proposed charter is looking for, to add a third town meeting, he wanted to ensure that there was funding available for that town meeting.
Thank you. And Mr. DiNardo, I understand, is in the chat and available to answer any questions. I don't know if he has any further comments. As we said earlier on Monday, anyone not here could communicate to us through the chat if they're a town meeting member. So,
Mr. Moderator?
yes. Are you in the
Hi,
panel?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. DiNardo?
Yes, it's Al DiNardo.
Okay, Al, go ahead. Welcome this
Very
evening.
quick.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Very quickly, the reason why I'm adding this money in is for the event that we need special town meetings. Right now, obviously, they're paid for, but there's always sort of these talking points that town meetings, special town meetings are expensive. We have 2 annuals. A special town meeting is something other than an annual. So this is more or less town meeting making a statement, as it did with in-house counsel for $1 at the fall annual. Town meeting would be making a statement that they want more of an ease of special town meetings, no matter which way this charter goes. The charter is going to add a potentially a third town meeting. And if not, at least we would have this money set aside. If we don't use it, it will go back to free cash. It's just an accounting move. That's really all it is. It's not costing the taxpayers anymore. We would have to pay for a special anyways, but it's town meetings' commitment to saying, hey, let's have these when we need them. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, and that is Al DiNardo, Precinct 17, and he is moving to amend Subcommittee Report A, Item 11, Elections and Town Meeting. Any further discussion on that? If not, we would move to Article 7A, Motion Subcommittee Report B1. Mr. Canty moves town vote to raise and appropriate $82,943,762. Mr. Canty.
In a vote of 9 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 2 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $83,999,062 for Subcommittee B's section of the budget. This figure incorporates the recommendations made by Budget Subcommittee B in their report and an increase of $860,000 to the Salary Reserve Fund that was recommended at the Advisory and Finance Committee's annual budget hearing. This $860,000 increase is comprised of $800,000 designed to prevent any layoffs of school department personnel that may have otherwise been necessary if their budget was funded to be consistent with the town's financial planning efforts, as recommended and described in Budget Subcommittee F's report, and $60,000 designed to permit the potential hiring of a library outreach position as detailed in the library section of Budget Subcommittee E's report during fiscal year '24, should the town's financial health allow it.
Thank you. Kevin Canty, Chair of the Advisory and Finance Committee. It's a majority vote, a roll call if it's not unanimous. We'll be going through all of these parts of Article 7 in order to pass and approve the entire budget. We continue on with Article 7A, the Motion Subcommittee Report B2. Ms. Canty moves town vote to raise and appropriate $1,055,300. It's a two-thirds vote. Mr. Canty.
As part of that same vote of 9 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 2 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve this portion of Budget Subcommittee B's section of the budget covering community debt.
Next, it would be 7A, Subcommittee Report C. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $34,173,647. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report C.
In addition to the handout that I showed earlier on the budget, there is also the spring annual town meeting fiscal 2024 general government proposed operating budget. It's something that, again, we can refer to as we deliberate at town meeting, and also part of that we have from the Plymouth Public Schools, the fiscal year 2024 budget book. These go along with the report and recommendations from the Advisory and Finance Committee for the special town meeting, and now we're talking about the spring annual town meeting. So there's quite a bit of information available to town meeting members and the public as we prepare for town meeting. Article 7A, Subcommittee Report D. Ms. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $13,253,080. Ms. Canty.
In a vote of 6 in favor, 5 in opposition, and 2 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $13,253,080 for this section of the budget.
Again, a majority vote and a roll call, and Lynn Barrett, the Director of Finance, has been here this evening and will be available to answer questions for town meeting and the public. Subcommittee Report E, under 7A, Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $5,022,520. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve an appropriation of $5,022,520 for this section of the budget.
Majority and a roll call. Subcommittee Report F. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $113,887,523. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, 0 in opposition, and no abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report F.
And we will continue to go through the budget, but like with the earlier motion from Mr. DiNardo, if any town meeting members wish to amend or debate a particular item, if you can contact me regarding the item number, and then we will certainly pause and go through that specific item. Continuing on, Water Enterprise Operating Budget, Subcommittee G. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $5,434,171. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Water Enterprise.
Majority in a roll call, and next, under Article 7C, Sewer Enterprise, Subcommittee G, Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $7,954,770. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Sewer Enterprise.
Thank you. And continuing on with our motions under the Article 7, we're going to take each section separately. And next, what we have after this would be 7D, Solid Waste Enterprise Operating Budget, Subcommittee G. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $867,598. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Solid Waste Enterprise.
And in addition to Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance, we have other people directly involved from the DPW who can also help to answer questions. Majority in a roll call vote, and the next is Article 7E, and it's the Airport Enterprise Operating Budget, Subcommittee G. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $3,669,491. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Airport Enterprise.
And finally, with Article 7, we have the Cable Access Enterprise Operating Budget, Subcommittee G. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to raise and appropriate $1,561,000 from items 87 to 88. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends approval of this section of the budget as detailed in Subcommittee Report G, Cable Public Access Enterprise.
That concludes Article 7. There won't be a final main motion for all of them. We've already voted them separately, and that would, with favorable votes on all of them, that would approve the budget for the fiscal 2024. Normally, Article 8 is for replacement items, such as vehicles. That's been withdrawn this year. We then are going to go to Article 9, which is our capital outlay article, and it's capital improvements. Mr. Canty moves the town appropriate the sum of $10,574,327 to pay the costs of various capital projects listed as A1 through A47 in Article 9 of the warrant. Now, again, we can receive motions or requests to debate any of the particular items listed in the A section. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 9. The town manager recommended funding the listed capital items requested for fiscal year '24. The Advisory and Finance Committee agrees with this recommendation.
And that would conclude Article 9, and then we would move to Article 10, the Personnel Bylaw. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to amend the personnel bylaws. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 10. Approval of this article will provide the executive branch of the town the ability to manage a non-union personnel in a manner consistent with both the management practices for the rest of the town's personnel and other bylaws and the responsibilities given to the executive branch by the town charter. This change will also give the town the ability to respond more quickly to its personnel management and recruitment needs.
Silvio Janella, the Director of Human Resources, will be available to answer questions. And Article 11, Mr. Canty moves that if Article 10 fails, the town vote to change the long-term illness account. And again, my understanding is if Article 10 does not fail, then there will not be a motion on Article 11. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 11. Again, this article will only be necessary if town meeting does not approve Article 10. Approval of this Article 11 will change the long-term illness account usage requirements, reclassify the benefits administrator, and increase the seasonal personnel rates beginning in May 2023 to allow the town to be more competitive with other local communities in attracting seasonal staff.
Majority roll call. Article 12, Chapter 90 funds on roads. Mr. Canty moves the town vote to accept a sum of money that the state declares as available funds as the state's share of the cost of work under general laws, Chapter 90. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 13 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 12. Approval of this article will enable the town to accept the State Highway Chapter 90 funds for repairs and reconstruction of public roads. While the estimated amount of Chapter 90 funds for fiscal year 2024 was not known at the time this report was prepared, Plymouth did receive more than $1.5 million for fiscal year 2023. The town expects a similar amount in fiscal year 2024 unless there is a change in policy and/or the state's financial health.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. In addition to those people we've introduced here in the Great Hall, we do have some other panelists who are in on Zoom, and at this time, Nicole will just introduce and identify them. Nicole Manfredi.
We have Brad Brothers available, Derek Brindisi, Dr. Chris Campbell, and Sheila Scarzi.
Thank you. And speaking of Sheila Scarzi, she's available to answer questions under Article 12 on the Chapter 90 funds. And moving on, the next article to come before the town meeting after Article 12 would be Article 13. Article 13 is the Town Promotion Fund. Ms. Canty moves the town vote to transfer the sum of $1,109,928 from the Town Promotion Fund. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 9 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 13. Approval of this article will allow expenditures from the town's promotion fund. The promotion fund, created by special legislation, is funded with 45% of the receipts from the hotel motel tax. The Visitors Services Board oversees expenditures from this fund. Expenditures include funding special events and celebrations. The Town Promotion Fund is also used to pay a marketing and promotions contract with C Plymouth/Destination Plymouth, which provides the town with television and print advertising around the country and abroad, maintains a waterfront information booth, and provides for the operation of the C Plymouth website.
Thank you. Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, is available to answer questions. Continuing on, Article 14 is withdrawn. Article 15, Title V Repair Fund. Ms. Canty moves the town appropriates the sum of $400,000 for the purpose of financing the following water pollution abatement facility projects. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 9 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 15. Approval of this article will allow the town to borrow $400,000 through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust to fund the Title V Betterment Loan Program. These low-interest loans are available to town residents meeting certain income criteria on a first-come, first-served basis to fund septic system replacement or repair. Historically, the funding for this program has been refreshed as funds are depleted.
Thank you. And again, Lee Hartman, Director of Planning Development, available to answer questions on Article 15. Article 16 is withdrawn. Article 17, Mr. Canty moves the town vote to amend Chapter 1, Sections 1 to 4 fine schedule as listed in Article 17 of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting warrant. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 11 in favor, none in opposition, and 1 abstention, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 17. Approval of this article will increase the fines for repeat false alarm offenses with the intent of encouraging alarm system owners to upgrade and/or repair their systems to prevent false and accidental alarm calls, which can hinder the police department's ability to respond to other incidents in town in a timely manner.
Chief Flynn is available to answer questions under Article 17. Article 18 is a motion to amend the bylaw, Chapter 23, Sections 23 to 11, charge a late fee. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 18. Approval of this article will amend the town's general bylaw, Chapter 23, Section 23-11, license fees, to permit the town to charge a late registration fee in regards to dog licensing. Any monies recovered as fines or penalties shall be paid into the general fund of the town.
And our town clerk is here this evening. She is available to answer questions with respect to Article 18. It's a majority and a roll call vote. Article 19, to amend a bylaw, Chapter 173. Mr. Canty.
In a unanimous vote of 12 in favor, none in opposition, and 0 abstentions, the Advisory and Finance Committee recommends town meeting approve Article 19. Approval of this article will amend the town's general bylaw, Chapter 173, to update the number of precincts and town meeting members to be consistent with Plymouth's recent redistricting and make the bylaw language related to the date of town elections consistent with the election dates specified in the current town charter.
And again, once again, it's a majority vote and a roll call if it's not unanimous, and the town clerk is available to answer questions. Now, in preparing for town meeting, we have a number of documents that help us. We have the Plymouth Charter and the bylaws of the town. We also have rules governing town meeting debate, and those rules include that the moderator will call on town meeting members before calling on anyone else. We also have a document called Town Meeting Handbook, and that was approved by the Committee of Precinct Chairs on August 16, 2012. And I draw that to your attention because there are times when people contact me, and I got an email this week from a town meeting member citing a case that came down in which he thought that that had an effect on the town meeting handbook. And I read the case, and certainly I will be conducting town meeting consistent with our charter, with the bylaws, with the town meeting rules, with the town meeting handbook, and with applicable state statutory and case law. So as we continue with the town meeting preview, I'd like to thank the members of the panel, and if anyone has anything else they'd like to add, this would be an appropriate time to do that. Thank you certainly to the Assistant Town Moderator, Nicole Manfredi. Thank you to Kevin Canty. Director of the Advisory and Finance Committee. Thank you to Brad Brothers, the Assistant Town Manager. Thank you to Kelly McElrath, our Town Clerk, Lynn Barrett, Director of Finance. Thank you to those people who also have Zoomed in to be available to answer questions. And certainly thank you to PACTV, which is cablecasting this preview live, and it will become available after tonight on both the PACTV website and on YouTube. And once again, Plymouth's special and annual town meeting are hybrid this year. So we have most town meeting members will be in person. We were informed by the town clerk tonight that so far approximately 30 of the 162 town meeting members, 30 have made requests to be remote. So they will be coming in on the Zoom webinar platform and also voting on the V-Voter platform. And we thank OTI for supporting us with the voting. We thank PACTV for cablecasting town meeting live for all of their support. And also the thanks to the Plymouth Public Schools, to Alan McLean and his staff for all their audiovisual support. Town meeting will recess at least once every 2 hours. We will have a recess at approximately 10 a.m. for 15 minutes. We will have a lunch recess for 45 minutes around midday. And town meeting will continue with recesses every 2 hours thereafter until we either conclude the business or until there is a motion to adjourn, which is successfully voted. I have been asked in the past, will we end at 3 or any other specific time? That is up to town meeting. And so in some recent town meetings, we have gone until the warrant and all the motions have been completed. But again, that's going to be up to town meeting members. And if any of you want to submit to me a motion in advance, you can do that. Once again, thank you to everyone who's participating in this town meeting preview. My name is Steve Trifletti, Plymouth Town Moderator. Good evening and thank you.